Hey, what's up everybody? I'm Landon with LMR.com. In this video, we're checking out the 2000 Cobra R splitter support brace. I know some of you are probably thinking, what in the absolute heck? You're making a part for a car that at the time of this video is 23 years old. Well, let me just tell you about the story. So the original 2000 Cobra R we purchased to us that we still own to this day, we bought around the mid 2000s. Well, whenever we bought that car, we got our hands on a prototype splitter support brace. Well, it stayed in our library of parts up until now. We brought it down, we studied it, and we thought that, you know what, if this car could benefit from it, probably several people that have a 2000 Cobra R could benefit from it. So this Cobra R beside me, at the time of this video, we've owned about 4 years. It's car number 45, and early on in the ownership, Scott Springer had to put head gaskets in it. The car has 30,000 plus miles. You can see the bug smacks, and the hood is a little faded, but that gives the car character. And it's probably one of the very few in existence that has this many miles. Splitter's been off the thing hundreds of times, probably figuratively speaking, but the splitter's been off several times. We road raced this thing, I'm not gonna say quite often, but it has seen the track a few times under our ownership, and we've addressed the splitter a few different times. Well, since this was an ongoing problem with these cars, we wanted to offer the splitter support brace that was never released to all of our friends that have a 2000 Cobra R. Speaking of friends, real quick before we continue on, if you own a 93, 95, or 2000 Cobra R, you can consider this your formal invitation to our annual LMR Cruise-in. I'll leave a link for you in the description, but the Cobra R count has increased over the years, and we would like for the 2023 event to have as many Cobra Rs as it can. With the splitter, the downforce it creates puts a lot of stress on the header panel here at the bumper pillars. We've already addressed this problem with another part. I'll leave a link down in the description below. You can check that one out. We also have a how-to video on it. But in a nutshell, this repairs or reinforces the header panel at its weakest point. Because this car creates a lot of downforce, this is usually the first area to break. In conjunction with this piece, we have the splitter support brace. Like I said, we've built this off the prototype. It has the upper rod, has the lower rod. This portion here, it sits a little bit more towards the rear of the car in comparison to the lower rod, but this goes into the small area on the front bumper, and then the lower portion, the lower rod here on the splitter support brace, it gets positioned within the splitter. We have two rearward attaching points. You do have to drill 2 holes in your metal rear bracket that's attached to the splitter. Of course, we provide bolts to attach that. And then you also see here the support cables. These get ran in front of the power steering cooler, and they attach to the 2 holes on the driver and passenger side of the core support. And we also include clamps to secure that in place once you pull the slack out of them. And of course, some heavy duty heat shrink to heat shrink the ends of the cable. In this video, we're going to show you how to install this thing onto this 2000 Cobra R. The steps that you see can be used for all 2000 Cobra Rs, obviously, or if you have a 2000 Cobra R-style front splitter with the rearward attaching bar, all the steps will be correct for you. Enough of me talking. Let's go ahead and put one on this 2000 Cobra R. Obviously, you want to get it as high and as safe as you can. If you're going to be working off of jack stands, or option 2, you can support it via a lift. That's what we're going to be using today. I've already got it situated on our lift. Whenever you do this, just be mindful of the side exit exhaust. It's pretty simple. So we'll get this up in the air and get rolling. All right, so I'm going to have it about chest level, give or take. We're going to loosen up all of our Dzus fasteners. You can do this with like a quarter or something like that. I'm just gonna grab a spark plug gapping tool and we'll break all these loose. This will be a 2-person job. So you'll have to have your buddy over on one side. So like I said, a little spark plug gapping tool should do the trick. You know, if you got a coin laying around, you can use it as well. I'm just starting right here, but you can start on any of them. Put a little lubricant on that. Also one right here at the front or rear of the splitter. All of our Dzus fasteners are loose, so I'm gonna go ahead and kind of work it away from the bumper a little bit. Okay, everybody, this is John Raspberry. Okay, so you'll take your splitter support brace. It's pretty obvious in the direction in which it goes. The piece that's, you know, sticks out a little further is the bottom. The piece that doesn't stick out as far as the lower piece is the top. You'll position it here within the splitter. And if you notice your 2 rear sections where the bracket is, this is where this is gonna be situated. We're situated right here at the end of the rear bracket for the splitter. And what we're gonna do here, we're going to get it situated where we want it. So basically you're gonna push it all the way forward till it makes contact with the splitter itself. And then what we'll do then is you'll have to, as you're kind of pushing forward to make sure it's seated, we'll squeeze it in. That way it makes contact with the bracket that's already attached to the splitter. And then we'll kind of push down and we'll mark some holes that we can drill. Once you get it situated, you can do one side at a time if you're working by yourself. So like I said, you'll push in while you're pushing toward the front. I'm just gonna use like a scribe. We'll mark that hole. We'll jump over here to the other side. All right, we'll get the support brace out of our way. And then we'll drill some holes. You can see the marks right there. Next, I'm gonna center punch these marked holes. And then we're gonna drill with a 1/4 inch drill bit. And I go through this metal. Just a shot of WD-40 or some cutting fluid. Okay, we're close enough now to where I'm going to reposition this splitter over the edge of my workbench here. That way when we go through, you know, we won't bottom out and hit the table. And that's how quick it goes through the plastic splitter. So there's hole number 1. Damn thing's walking. So what I'm having to do on this one, I'm gonna start with an 1/8 inch pilot bit, or pilot hole. Get it started. Okay, then we'll jump back over to our 1/4 inch. Okay, we'll shift our splitter and then drill the through hole. Okay. So with the drilled holes, you now have some exposed metal. I always like to go back through here, wipe these with some isopropyl alcohol and just put a little dab of touch-up paint in them. I'm just gonna add a little bit of tape for some overspray, and I'm just gonna dust that with some black E-coat. We'll let that dry, and we'll keep on moving on. All right, so we've let our paint dry. I'm gonna pull this tape, and we can move to the next step. All right, we'll go ahead and open the hood and remove our radiator cover. Typically 4 push pins. You can use a flathead screwdriver, you can use a push pin tool, whichever method you feel is suitable. Oh, this one's always goofy because it's inset down in this little cavity. I know on the non-2000 Cobra R's, those are the goofy Phillips head drive push pins, so that's probably what you'll have. I don't know, who knows? So now that we have this exposed, this is where this hole here and this hole here on the passenger side, driver's side, this is where your cables are gonna come through that's attached to the splitter support brace. Okay, so before we mock up our splitter support brace, we're gonna take some of the provided heat shrink. Now we're gonna cover the ends of the cables. You can see how they kind of start to fray. And as we work that up through the car, we just don't want to accidentally poke a sensitive area, or if these happen to, you know, make contact with the paint, you know, anything like that, preventive maintenance. And you can cut these to your liking. Maybe we'll just say And this is some heavy duty heat shrink, so you may have to, if you want a clean cut, you may have to cut that with a sharp razor blade. All right, we'll slide it over the end of the cable. Make sure you get all the strands through there. I'm gonna leave just a little bit of overhang, probably about 1/8 inch. It's gonna be hot, but you can kind of squeeze that closed. And do the same for the other cable end. So now we'll take our splitter support brace over to the car. You'll want to set it at the height you need it. So if you're working off a jack stand or if you're working off a lift, you'll need something here to help support the splitter support brace while you run the cables up to the top. But this upper bar here, it's going to get positioned right here, lower section of the bumper. And then once you got it hung in place, you can go ahead and just use whatever you're gonna, whatever your apparatus is to support the splitter support brace. And then now we're gonna feed our cables up to the top. We're gonna go in front of the power steering cooler and then behind the crash bar. Reach through the grill opening. And then toward the direction of that hole on the driver's side, and we're just gonna lay that over the center of the radiator here, center of the core support. Jump over here and we'll do the same side, or do the same thing for this side. Front of the power steering cooler, behind the crash bar, and up towards this hole on the passenger side of the core support. So you'll take the end of the cable, you're gonna feed it towards the front side of the core support. Now we're going to take our clamp, carefully remove the nuts. Okay. Separate the two portions of the clamp. And then we'll come in here, create yourself some slack. You're gonna, on the driver's side, you have to work around the hood release cable. But position the little U-bolt portion around the two cables. Come back in with like the clasp portion of it. Make sure it gets situated correctly. You have to stack the cables within the assembly. As you put pressure on it, reinstall your two nuts. Okay, and then we can run these down with our 5.5 millimeter socket driver. Not tightening these just now. We're just getting them to a position where we still have some maneuverability of the cable. Yep. Just loosen enough to make adjustments. All right, we're gonna go ahead and remove our support. And now at this point, you'll need the help from your friend to reposition the splitter back into position. All right, so we have the splitter support brace sitting where it needs to be. To prevent it from working back into your power steering cooler, I'm gonna take a folded microfiber towel. I'm gonna position it here within the bumper where the upper rod is on the splitter support brace. Gonna push a little firm just to help hold it in place. But this will help kind of situate the splitter support where it needs to be. That way we can pull some slack out of our cables and then we're ready to reinstall the splitter. I'm gonna lower it down a little bit. We'll pull the slack out of those cables. So from within the grill opening, we'll loosen our 5.5 millimeter nuts on the clamp. And now we'll just pull the slack. We don't want to pull all of it out, we just want to pull enough of it out just to kind of help hold it in place. We'll pull the remaining slack out whenever the splitter's fully installed. Okay, so once you get rid of the majority of the slack, you can retighten those nuts and then do the same for the other side. Actually, on this side, I think I was already, okay, yeah, I'd already pulled the slack out on this side that I needed to. Okay, I'm gonna lubricate the brackets here at the core support. You notice there's a zip tie here that's gonna kind of help the tab on that rearward bracket of the splitter slide through there. We'll just give them a little shot of some WD. I'm good on this side. All right, so basically you'll reverse the removal steps. Just make sure you feed your brackets back here through, or the tabs through those brackets. They're kind of a pain to do, but. Oh yeah, the angle gets so goofy. Wow. All right, push it in if you can. I'm trying to get the angle. We're all the way through. We're wrapped around the back. I think we're good. Yeah, we're in. All right, I'm a little out of breath from wrestling with the splitter, but the microfiber towel did the trick. Basically, we still were careful as we work the splitter rearward to get the tabs in the brackets on the lower section of the core support. But when doing that, you don't want to get too crazy because that splitter support brace is going to start to want to walk toward the rear, and then the rearward section on the splitter support brace and end pieces on the cables, they'll work back into the power steering cooler, and you'll bend your fins all the heck, and you don't want to do that. So now we're going to work the perimeter here and get all of our Dzus fasteners reinstalled. Okay, so the microfiber towel is still in place. So now we're going to align the rearward hole here on the splitter support brace with the hole that we drilled previously. And to do this, you're gonna push it towards, you probably have to push it towards the front of the car to get it aligned. And once we get it started, we can run it down with our socket wrench. Now, when we fully tighten these, we just wanna go down till they get snug, because we don't want our fastener to dig through our splitter. All right, now we can reach in here and pull our microfiber towel out. Then you can use the help from your friend, and they'll gently pull up on the splitter to establish a little bit of preload, and we will pull the remaining slack out. All right, that's pretty snug, so now you may have to bend the cable over some to kind of help form it in the position it wants to be in. And once you pull the slack out, you want to tighten these down pretty good. Another little tool that you could possibly use is a little gimbal ratchet. May work out for you as well. As long as they're tight enough for the ratcheting mechanism that you can still rotate this with your hand. And if we simulate some downforce, you can see that cable start to pull a little more as it's supporting the splitter. From the section here within the bumper, with that upper section of rod, and you have that lower section of rod that's in here, and then you have your two attaching points to the core support with your cables. So that's adding your additional support. All right, we'll reposition our radiator cover. Reinstall the push pins into their respective locations. All right, people, so wrapping things up here on the Cobra R splitter support brace, definitely a must-have. Like I said, you know, this kind of transpired from a prototype piece, and we feel like a lot of you will like to have ownership of that. Not necessarily put it on the car, because yes, we know a lot of Cobra Rs don't get driven like this one does, but it still would be neat, you know, for you to to own something that is based off of the prototype piece made back in 2000. So if you found value in this one, like the video, subscribe to our channel, turn on notifications. That way you don't miss any of our future uploads. And then until we see you in the next one, for all things New Edge Mustang, keep right here with the Real Enthusiast, LMR.com.